I get it. When you're about to spend a few $1,000s on a new workstation, the last thing you want is to end up with a machine that sits under a desk gathering dust. Yesterday, I was chatting with a friend who's just landed a contract for high-resolution 3D rendering, and he was torn between a pricey pre-built tower and building his own rig. He asked me, is there a ready-made box that actually saves me the guesswork, or am I better off piecing it together? That's exactly the dilemma I'm trying to solve for you today. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the past week digging through spec sheets, watching benchmark videos, and scrolling through a handful of user comments on similar HP workstations. So let's break down whether the HP Z2 G1i tower lives up to the hype, or ends up being a costly paperweight. First off, the Z2 G1i isn't trying to be a gamer's dream machine. It's built for creators, engineers, and anyone who needs a reliable workhorse for intensive applications like CAD, video compositing, or AI-assisted design. The headline spec that catches the eye is the Intel Core Ultra 9 285K, a 24-core beast that promises plenty of headroom for multitasking. Pair that with 32GB of DDR5 RAM and a 1TB NVMe SSD, and you have a platform that can spin up massive project files in seconds. The NVIDIA 16GB graphics card is a workstation-grade quadra-style GPU, tuned for precision rather than sheer frame rates, which matters a lot when you're rendering complex assemblies or running simulation software that relies on GPU-accelerated compute. So who should actually consider this box? If your day-to-day revolves around heavy software like Autodesk Inventor, Adobe After Effects, or TensorFlow models that need CUDA cores, the Z2 G1i fits like a glove. Think of a freelance visual effects artist who needs to render 4K sequences overnight, or an architectural firm that runs iterative stress analysis on large models. The workstation's Intel W880 chipset adds support for professional-grade features like ECC memory, if you opt for it, and robust I/O options, which can be a lifesaver when you're dealing with terabytes of data across multiple monitors. On the flip side, if you're just looking for a solid laptop replacement for email, web browsing, and occasional Photoshop work, you're probably overpaying. The price point of the Z2 G1i puts it in the same ballpark as high-end gaming rigs that can outperform it in raw gaming FPS, but those rigs won't have the certified drivers and ISV optimizations that a workstation offers. Also, the machine is a tower, so you'll need a dedicated workspace and a decent cooling setup. It's not something you'll easily tuck under a small home office desk. Now, let's get into the practical strengths that actually matter once you've opened the box. The first thing I noticed in the unboxing video is the ease of access to the internals. HP designed the side panel with a single latch, and the components are clearly labeled, which makes future upgrades less intimidating. Adding more RAM or swapping the SSD for a larger drive is straightforward, and that flexibility is a big win for anyone who expects their workload to grow over the next few years. Thermal performance is another area where the Z2 G1i shines. The tower uses a dual-fan setup with a smart airflow algorithm that prioritizes the CPU's heatsink first, then the GPU. In real-world tests, users have reported that under sustained loads like rendering a 10-minute 8K animation, the CPU temperature hovered around the low 70s Celsius, while the GPU stayed in the mid-60s. That means you won't be forced to throttle down midway through a long render, which can otherwise add hours to your delivery schedule. Connectivity is often overlooked, but it's a practical win here. The workstation comes with a built-in 2.5 gigabits Ethernet port, which is a step up from the typical 1 gigabit ports on many consumer PCs. For anyone moving large CAD files across a local network, that extra bandwidth cuts transfer times in half. On the USB front, you get a mix of USB-C, USB-A, and even a few legacy ports, so you won't need a dongle hub for every peripheral. The included Windows 11 Pro license also means you have native support for BitLocker, remote desktop, and other enterprise features without extra licensing costs. Of course, No machine is perfect, and the Z2 G1i has a few trade-offs that could be deal-breakers depending on your situation. The first is price. Even before you add optional upgrades, the base configuration already sits near the $3,000 mark. If you're a freelancer on a tight budget, that's a hefty upfront cost, and you might find a custom-built PC that meets the same specs for less, though you'd lose the certified driver support and the peace of mind that comes with a single vendor warranty. Second, the tower's aesthetic is decidedly corporate. It's a matte black box with a very functional look, which some users love for its professionalism, but anyone who cares about a sleek home office vibe might feel it stands